All right, all right, all right. Welcome to my channel, 12 Gauge Investigative. I am your host, 12 Gauge. How's everybody doing tonight on this Friday night? Hope everybody had a wonderful week and that everything went well with you guys. Tonight I just wanted to get on here and kind of see who's all up to chat and just talk about some things that I've been hearing around these YouTube streets over this last week. There's not much really going on. There's just a lot of rehashing, reverbage. What's really hitting pretty hardcore is the Delphi case. The opening prosecution side finished up, and as far as I know, the only real evidence that they have is the bullet. At least that's what other people were saying. So I don't know. I don't know how true that is. So I just thought I'd get on here, see who got on, and see if we could have just a generalized chat about true crime, maybe the Idaho 4, because there's some theories that are floating around where people are talking about, a lineup. That's how they. Hey, Rondi, good to see you too. They're talking about a lineup that supposedly happened, and that's how they got to Brian and things of that nature. How many of you do believe that that is actually has some merit? Mm, there is the one about there's the continued theory about the Aryan did it, things of that equality. And there are people that are kind of doubling down on those type of theories, and it's interesting to hear. You know, one thing for certain is we're so far along. The PCA is almost like a distant memory. A lot of this stuff is like a distant memory. I was playing a video on my page earlier. It got me thinking. I'll play it for y'all here in a minute because it's actually myself discussing something that I really didn't really understand at the time, I guess, how much insight I really had on this situation. I'll play that here in a minute if anybody bothers to show up. The pizza. I haven't eaten pizza in a while. It's like I try to give myself a guilty pleasure at least once a week. So let's see what the old me has to say about this because that's who's going to be talking to you guys, not me, just the old me. And I will have some stuff to say about this for sure. Well, here we go. Let's see what I got to say. Good afternoon, everybody. This is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time being here, thank you so much for stopping by. You know, I talk about a lot of things about the IDAHO4, current events, concerts, substance abuse, life skills. You know, a lot of things that can help people out if they're struggling or they know somebody who's struggling with certain issues. Today, I'm going to create a podcast where I'm going to talk about criminal intent and motive. So we're into Monday Mania. I've spoke about these things a little bit in some of my other videos, but I really wanted to take a little time today and discuss it even further. Since I'm the only one on this podcast, I'd like to show a video from Law and Crime and then discuss it. So hold on a second. I forgot that I showed a video. My bad. Hope everybody's having a wonderful Monday. If it isn't wonderful for you, I hope it gets better for you, because it's not always great for some people, but you know, you make the best out of what you have. Here we go.
There's also been speculation about the motive here. Some say, well, maybe he, he got dissed by one of the victims here, but the diss doesn't mean that he was dissed to date somebody and she didn't want to. It could also be a diss to him because of who he is. It could be anything, couldn't it, Julie Renderman?
Right. And remember, motive, they're not required to prove motive, but motive is certainly helpful for a jury to understand why it would be that an individual who hadn't committed such a heinous crime before entered into a home.
That's true. One thing that doesn't have to be proven is motive. One thing that we don't have to know is why it happened, because there most of the time people don't really know why things happen. There's multiple reasons why certain things could just pop off, so to speak. You know, I was watching this video earlier about these camps in Portland, and this guy was talking about how this guy owns this street, and how this, hey Texas, thank you so much, buddy. Have a good time. And how he owned this street, and this guy who knew this elder gentleman confronted him in the street, and he said, "You're bringing down the property value of my condos." Well, what ended up happening is they got into a physical altercation because the 74-year-old guy was a Vietnam vet. And what ended up happening is the guy stabbed him and then sliced his throat. And just terrible. Terrible that people are so vicious when they're trying to get their point across these days. But what I was trying to say is there is no need for motive.
Home and decided to take the lives of these
I don't know why the internet was
young
so bad
women and man. But I do think that the prosecution is going to have a theory that they're going to bring along with them throughout this case. In terms of his motive, whether it be stalking or obsession or whatever it is in regards to at least one of the women that live there. And I think that is going to.
Well, before you get all freaked out and start saying, well, it was said that there was no stalking going on, take a minute. Take a minute and breathe. Let that statement be in your head and just listen to what she has to say and what I say about it. Okay? Because even though I'm not trying to change her mind, or even though she's not trying to change her mind, nobody on these platforms is trying to change anybody's mind. And to be fighting about it so much, it's just insane. It's insane. It's almost like people get upset when they hear something they don't like and they assume that somebody's trying to attack them or force them into changing who they are. Well, not here. I don't want you to feel that at one point. But it's also nice that if you're going to watch something, wouldn't you want to at least collaborate it with your own thoughts? Like, let's see if I can expand on what I believe and if there's anything else that I can collaborate to make it a little deeper in the thought process without having to attack or call names or, even victim shame. Adults don't do that. So let's see what she has to say.
Be something that you are definitely going to hear about throughout the trial.
Okay, as you heard her say, a motive doesn't have to be proven in a trial, which is correct. I'll put up here, let's talk about criminal intent and motive. Criminal intent is basically the theories of how you intend to carry this out. In this case, it was speculated that he intended to carry out his crime because he was stalking these individuals on social media. So his motive would have been, since I'm stalking these people on social media, which one am I infatuated with? Which one am I lusting after? Which one has rejected me? Which one has caught me stalking them if I am stalking them? So the motive is based on the intent. And there's one thing that hasn't really been proven due to the gag order, and a lot of creators haven't really talked about it, has been the criminal intent. If they have, I haven't heard about it. So if you have, kudos to you. I know y'all been doing this a long time, longer than me. I haven't had this channel very long. So not putting down any creators or any commentators. But think about how you would intend to get your life from one dimension to the other. Because he had a successful career as a student going on. I mean, he was getting degrees and he was advancing his studies. He was about to be a doctor, he was about to get a doctorate, his PhD, where he could have been a professor, he could have been somebody that wrote books. So let's think about that for a second. That guy on panel was pretty knowledgeable on his perception. Is he right about everything? Who the hell knows? One day we will find out, and one day we'll be like, well, he was right on, or he was way off, buddy. Either way, it won't really matter, because we'll still be hopefully living this life that we only get once. And we have the opportunity to make changes in the people that we're closest around. To let these things engulf us to the point where we become violent toward each other when we're trying to defend whether an individual is violent or not, doesn't that sound a little insane sometimes? I've had people attack me, I've had people send emails, I've had all the stuff that other creators probably have, you know? And, you know, I still roll on because I stay true to myself. I mean, I'm friends with people, as you can see in the chat, AR's here, Texas is here, Rondi's here. I stay true to myself. And I respect the individuals that come in here to hear me because, you know, we all should respect another to say, well, you know what? I might not believe everything they have to say, but they are on to something there. And it can be looked into a little deeper if we open our mindset. But there's a lot of closed minded individuals whenever we're talking about these cases. And it's sad. Entertainment sells. You know, I was thinking about this today also. And I'm one of those people that I don't know if you've ever been in addiction. You're used to lying a lot. You're used to conning. You're used to manipulating. You're used to, getting over on people and not being very reliable, And when I sobered up, I realized that that wasn't going to work for me. I'm going to get on a tangent right quick, and then we're going to get back to this. But one thing that I learned early on is if I want to be taken seriously, I got to stay true to me. I can't let anybody in the world try to change me for who they want me to be because otherwise I'm going to be jumping through hoops trying to make people happy. And I tried that very early on in my addiction when I was getting sober, and people would automatically assume the worst of you. And, it's a natural impulse no matter where we've been, what we've done. I still have people in my past that how I'm removed from my addiction so many years now. And I've run into people and they're like, "You're sober? You're clean?" Yeah, bro, I got 20 something years. No freaking way. I thought that you'd be dead or you'd still be in your addiction. Nah, I gave it up. And when we're talking about Brian, that's why one of the things that I've always tried to show when I do an IDAHO4 case is not only do I want to show the good or the possible, but I want people to see an alternative of how it could have possibly went another direction. Because when you've lived a life outside the lines of society, you blend in trying to let everybody know, hey, I'm just like you. You can trust me. You don't have to worry about me. But on the inside, you're fighting all these demons, all these thoughts. And it doesn't take much for you to start relying on old behavior because it's easy. You know, I used to tell people early on I was a thief, and not a thief that I would steal things from you in your homes or, I wouldn't steal your cars or anything like that. But I stole hearts, I stole trust, I stole people's caring for me. I manipulated to get what I wanted. I lied to get what I wanted and needed. And it's a very dirty feeling. And if you've never lived that life, you'll never understand it. You'll never understand it. Just because I'm cleaned up and I'm not drinking right now, or I'm not, popping pills, or I'm not doing any of that, and I'm not under the influence, does not mean that that addiction still doesn't live right here. It still doesn't beat right here. And that's why when I've talked about Brian in the past, I've wanted people to understand that because people are quick to say, well, his addiction had nothing to do with who he became. Bro, I don't know the man. I really don't. And I'm going to start by saying this. I don't know the man. But I can tell you this anytime you've ever tried to overcome something and you get stressed out or overwhelmed, or just want to say fuck it and throw grenades into the wind and blow up your whole world and start all over, it's a tendency to self sabotage your good fortune. And to say that the man had overcame addiction, he had overcame you know, living at his house and, going to college and graduating that and graduating another and then moving clear across the country with no friends, no family. And you get over there and it's like a whole new world. I've never been over there, so I can't really talk about how it is because I don't know what Idaho's like. I only listen to how people talk about it. But I can tell you this, as a person who was a nomad running from myself for so many years, I understand it. You're trying to run from you. And in the process, you're trying to be just like everyone else. And at the same time, you're destroying the little bit of leverage, the solid ground that you have at your feet. You're forgetting to take care of that. So, if you can imagine somebody moving across the country and you're continuing your education, how he started a whole new job. He was a teacher's assistant. And he was going to school to continue his education. And at the same time, he was a little older than the people he was around. But he wasn't no geezer by any means. I don't know if you've ever been at a job where you're the youngest person there and most of the people are older than you. You don't have nothing in common. He wasn't married, didn't have any children. He didn't have any of those stories that you talk about in the break room. You know? He didn't have any of that going on. So for him to go home to that apartment, can you imagine how lonely that was? To be lonely in that apartment, not know hardly anybody other than the people we've been told that he talked to. We don't know whether he had anybody over his house, whether he could have people at his house. We don't know if we know that supposedly, and I'm going to say supposedly because I don't know. We've been told that he supposedly went running, right? That he went for drives, that he was a vegan. What a hell of a way to describe somebody, I mean, if I'd want people to describe me in more ways than that. I bet his family knows a lot about him, but we're not preferent to know that about him. But can you imagine being labeled? That's just a fucking druggie right there. That's just a liar. That's a manipulator. That's watch him. He's just gonna steal from you. He's gonna get what he wants and then he's gonna dump you. Label, label, label. He's no good. You're not gonna date my daughter. You're just a piece of trash. You're just this, you're just that. Can you imagine even having a professional job and still people label you behind your back? He's a creeper. He's creepy. He's unsociable. He lacks coping skills. He lacks this. He lacks that. Bro. But at the same time, even though we defend Brian sometimes, we do the same thing to other people that people are doing to Brian, and we think we're actually taking up for Brian. What we're doing is just showing our lack of insight on how hurtful labels can actually be to people. And that's for anybody. Nobody wants to be labeled. Who wants to be labeled? Any of you in the chat like to be labeled? Maybe you had a problem with reading and you were a little dyslexic when you were younger, but you worked through it. And now your old friends are, how would you like it? If that's the first thing they mention. Or maybe you had weight problems and the first thing they mention every time they see you. Hey, you look kind of big. You've been eating pretty good. It's a hell of a way to live. And I know you probably think, well, what does it have to do with anything, 12 gauge? It has everything to do with everything because that's what living is about. It's about living while trying not to live in your own head based on the societal norms that you can meet or you cannot meet due to other people's expectations. I would repeat that, but it comes so quick. I can't do it again. I hope you got that. Because when you're trying to meet other people's expectations, you're never going to do it. Even if somebody says, you know what, I want you to be a better worker, I want you to do this, I want you to be more courteous, and I'll give you a raise. Okay, you're going to do that to get a raise, right? But then you have a bad day or your boss yells at you and you say, well, you know what, screw you. I was working hard for you. I don't care if you see me as lazy or unapproachable or whatever. That's who I am. You don't like it? Tough. Have y'all ever wondered if Brian ever had those moments where he finally got tired of pleasing other people and he said, you know what, I'm going to do me. I'm going to be who I am. Because supposedly he went to treatment, right? And that's my expertise. So once you go to treatment, usually they teach you how to communicate. They teach you how to interact with society. They teach you how to stay out of your head. They teach you how to stay sober, right? So maybe he learned some coping skills that got him through the tough times. Maybe that's what got him through the college years where he could see, and he was close to home. And obviously they were close to Brian because I don't know how many fathers would fly all those miles to not only drop their son off, but to pick their son up. Let's hear what this 12 gauge have to say. So that is kind of what I wanted to say in this video that I'm playing you. But, I only have so much time and I don't want to take up your whole evening just trying to get one thought out. I'm a long winded person because of my therapist. I'm used to doing 3-hour groups, 6 hours a day. So, and talking to people all day long. So that's a lot of hours talking. So when it comes to talking, it doesn't bother me at all. But let's see what this guy got to say. Hit it, 12 gauge. He could have been in the field. He could have been this, that, and the other. One thing I never really hear about, and I want to talk about this a minute, is the age of Mr. Koberger. He's 28 years old. And if you're watching this, well, he's not 28 anymore. He's probably 29 or even close to pushing 30. Think about when you were 28 years old. Would it have been logical for you to intentionally have a crush on a 21-year-old? That's 7 years. What would they have in common with you? How would you have been able to maneuver that? At 28, I was still pulling 19, 20, 21, 22-year-olds. Obviously, I didn't have this going on. I didn't have, a lot of things that the life and age brings upon you. But one thing that you have to notice that him being successful at his criminal studies, he had to have a type. And I've talked about stalking in the video that I created, I think yesterday. These are all starting to run together, but he had to have a type that he was either attracted to or fixated on and became obsessive over. Which one was it? Was it even the females? And I'm not trying to be funny here. I'm not trying to be funny. There's nothing to say that he wasn't attracted to Ethan. And that's a silly theory. I know it is. There's nothing to base it on. There's no interaction with him that people have spoke about. There's no kind of communication that we know about. But people immediately assumed that he was an incel, that he was stalking one of the females. What if that's not the case? What if his object of affection, his intent, was to show one of the other females who lived what type of person he really was? Like maybe they had a problem with the roommate that were murdered. You hear that word maybe? That's speculation. That's speculation.
We got it.
Possibly. Un- Unfounded. But if there was a problem with the other roommates, he could have been the one who steps up and be the savior. Well, let me take care of him for you. I don't like that type of person, anyways. You and I have been hanging out. Your boyfriend's not in town. The other one, Bethany, you just never really heard of a boyfriend. Maybe it was impressing one or two.
Okay, I'm going with this theory, so I'm gonna elaborate on it a little bit. What I'm saying is, what if it wasn't one of the people that got killed that he was really infatuated with? What if it was one of the surviving roommates whom he got close to and even found out that they really kind of didn't like one of the roommates? But I wouldn't say enough to have them killed, but you just never know how petty people are these days. You know what I mean? Or maybe he misconstrued something, because another thing that I want you to know is there's some people that are very smart book wise, okay? Very intelligent, very quick with knowledge. But when it comes to common sense, you have to literally walk them through it. So maybe he misconstrued, like, man, I wish somebody would just take them out, or I wish somebody would just get rid of them, or I wish they'd just leave. And if he was really into one of these females, and this is speculating, okay? So don't get all crazy with me. You know, he could have wanted to impress one of them. And I've always thought that Xana and Ethan were collateral damage. I thought the two upstairs would have been the targets, one or the other. But possibly he could have been like, "Don't worry about it, I got you." And then one of them's about to move. You can't wait. You got to do it tonight. That doesn't mean that he was doing it for himself, because look at the statistics, guys. Look at the statistics. Women are incarcerated most of the time behind a man. So, how many men have fallen into the trap of messing with a woman who was unattainable, who was either married, had a boyfriend, and then wanted to be with this man and kind of talked him into potentially either killing the husband or killing the boyfriend, and then blaming the boyfriend, and they'd be out of the situation. I know that's a hard stretch. That's a hard stretch to go, but that's the theory that I'm going with here. So I don't know if y'all can dig that or not, but it's a hard stretch. I understand it. But let's see what I got to say on that. Doing the dirty work. Because in the criminal logic of things, if your mind is not clear, women manipulate men.
House swamp.
And if you say no, that's not true, then I'll call your bluff. I really will. Because they manipulate men through sexual desire.
Amen,
Or
brother.
promises of.
There you go.
So if this individual, Mr. Koberger, allegedly was not very good with the women, and he had to derive a life from afar on the internet, if he did manage to input himself into the surviving roommates' lives, then maybe that gave him a sense of belonging, acceptance. Because one thing that I've heard, and here's more speculation, because it's unfounded, it's just people talking, is if you've ever lived with somebody, if you've ever had a roommate, or you shared a house with family or whatever, there comes a time when people outstay their welcome. They start to get on each other's nerves. They start to have the same issues over and over. And there's a lot of things that happen that many people may or may not have been aware of. So if there were some witnesses in this case, 400 to be exact, then maybe you're going to hear about some disagreements from the surviving roommates with the roommate that were passed away. Maybe you're going to hear about cat fights.
Well, I have a lot of women in the chat right now. I'm going to go ahead and let y'all vote. Okay. How many of you women have ever gotten a little catty with people who you're close with? Whether it be your sisters, whether it be your friends, whether it be coworkers, anybody that you're close with. It doesn't necessarily have to be an enemy. Type a 1 if you've ever gotten catty with somebody. And I'm talking about talking behind their back, maybe, having snide remarks about them or just anything. Because guys do it too. I'm not just picking on the females, but Texas was the only other guys. So, that's why I'm asking you females, because it happens. Human nature is human nature. We spend so much time together. We may present an image that everything is okay, but behind the scenes, we don't know if there was those, man, you're such a dirty roommate to live with. Why do you always leave your cereal bowl on the table? Why don't y'all pick up after yourselves? Why is your dog always running to my room? All those things, they get annoying. Especially if you're not used to living a life like that. Is it enough to lose your life over? Hopefully not, but people have lost their lives over less.
Things that happened that nobody knew about, only the surviving roommates and the ones that passed away. And here's a question that I've never really heard answered either or even asked. I've heard it from newscasters and stuff, but not really the online community. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it out there. There's never really been a question as why or what caused Ethan to be staying over there with Xana. He had his golf clubs over there. He had his belongings over there. He was there the night of the murders. Was it to protect her? Was it to protect himself? Was he trying to escape something that was going on at the Sigma Chi house that he didn't want to be a part of? What caused him to stay over there as much? I know if I had a girlfriend in college, which I did, she would come to my off-campus home, so I guess it's logical. And she would stay the night, and she wouldn't sleep in the dorms or any of that. So yeah, it's logical. But all of a sudden, I mean, it just makes no sense. But I'm sure one day it will. One day when the trial is here, all of this will make sense. We'll get those answers that we've been asking all these months.
Hey, Bree.
Supposedly Xana had her dad come look at the lock due to people going through her room and stuff. What was it in her room that people were constantly going in and messing with? In the pictures that have been,
I'll tell you, I never thought about that until whenever I was doing this after I got off camera. This is an old video, by the way. I remember some chatter going around about how Xana had some stuff stolen from her room, and that's why the lock had to be changed. I don't know how true that was, but I remember the chatter early on. But what I'm saying right here, and this is just one of the theories, okay? I have a theory that I've never spoken on, and I'm going to speak on it probably right before the trial. I'm not going to give it up that easy. I'm going to make you hold out. But I have a theory, and it could be wild, it could be out there, but it seems feasible to me in my mind, okay? But have any of you ever heard that about Xana having her room have some belongings stolen or maybe taken, moved around? Maybe somebody was in there that shouldn't have been. I mean, because that's a big deal too. When you're living with people, there's a sense of privacy you think you have, but some people just don't conform to those boundaries that you set. What do you think, chat? Have y'all ever lived in a house where people messed with your stuff, or you came back and your stuff was moved around, or maybe you saw a hoodie on your sister or something like that, and they were always getting into your room, all this and that? I'm sure that would make you angry, wouldn't it? And has there been anybody speak on the exact nature? I know in the 4chan posts, they were talking about Ethan failing his first semester or failing the first year and needing a tutor. And I don't know if that's part of the reason he would have been staying over there. Not that he needed a reason, not that he needed a reason, because let's look at these individuals like adults, not like children. They were technically adults. They were new to each other. They were newly boyfriend and girlfriend. This was supposedly Xana's first real boyfriend. They never really said about Ethan. But can you imagine,
being that close to your girlfriend or boyfriend, that they're in a fraternity and you want to see them more often, especially on the weekends. You don't want them to be at the damn fraternity and you're at your home by yourself. What kind of sense would that make? Especially if you're that close, you know? So it really doesn't matter why he was there. I'm sure looking back on it all, he might have escaped what happened to him if he wasn't there. Yeah, she probably did want him there. I mean, because I know a lot of girls feel a lot safer. Like I was talking in this video about my girlfriend. She lived in a off-campus apartment, but there was all kinds of parties, and she felt like every time she went out for food or whatever, somebody was always, being guys. So she's like, I don't know if her ex-boyfriend was kind of sketch. And she's like, I don't really feel safe with the three other girls there. I mean, I know that nothing's going to happen, but I feel safer when I come over here and spend the night. So I wasn't objective to it. It's like, okay, you know where I live. Come on in. I'll leave the door open. Come on in. Just lock it on the way in. And after a while, just gave her a key. So the fact that he was over there, it might have been nothing but innocent. You know, you're here. I care about you. Want to be with you. Let's have some fun. I don't know if y'all still think like that, but hopefully you are in a relationship where you want to be with your significant other a lot of the time. That are on the internet, that are on their social medias, the rooms look like a setup for selfies, a setup for party photos, just a setup for a backdrop for something to shoot a picture of, with a background. So what was it that was being taken or messed with in her room? So she had to get her lock changed or lock fixed or whatever because she was tired of people going through her stuff. That's totally understandable. So, intent. We've never been told whether Maddie's door was unlocked. We've never been told if Kaylee's door was unlocked the next morning when they found a dog in there. Or did some of the friends know the lock numbers and assisted in getting the emergency first responders in there to assist the dog? Okay, and that's insinuating that they were those key locks still. There's been talk that maybe those key locks were just something of the past and they had regular keys to their locks. They were locked from the inside with the little turn thing that you lock the door with. So in that case, if Murphy was in Kaylee's room, did she lock the door after leaving him in there? If she even left him in there? Um, was Maddie's door locked? Was it open? Those are some questions that I've always asked myself is, you know, how quickly were they discovered? Do they have to actually break down the doors? You know? You know, the front door was obviously open. Everybody could see as they walked past that the door was open. So that wasn't a big deal, I guess, because it was wide open. Who opened it? Who knows? How long had it been open? Who knows? And they've never really discussed what happened to the DoorDash delivery. Was it left on the doorstep? Was it in the house? Was it in Xana's room? Because I don't believe that the Jack in the Box bag that the whole world is seeing on the counter, I don't believe that's the DoorDash delivery.
And here's another thing that I've thought about. And I keep cutting this off because I have some commentary on this up to date stuff. I was thinking also, if she had the food delivery, whatever it was, you know, if there was any of the perpetrator's blood on that bag, there definitely would have been DNA on that bag. Was there DNA of the DoorDash driver on that bag? Was there other people's DNA on that bag who touched, preparing the food? How deep did they go into diving for DNA on that bag? And if there was a drink, was there any DNA on the cup? Was there any fingerprints? Did the killer touch the cup? Did he knock over the cup? You know, something was said earlier that got me thinking as well is, where Dylan hears, I'm going to help you. It's been presented that could have been a paramedic or even a police officer. But in my head, I challenge that a little bit because if it was either one of those, you would think by definition of their not only wanting to keep their job, but to do the humanly thing, they would have got help. They would have been discovered almost immediately. And the perpetrator might have not even been out of the house. So if if it was police or if it was a fireman or if it was paramedic, the person who did the crime might have not even been out of the house if that person was in there that quickly. And that's just my thought on that. So let's hear what this guy got to say. Be sure to hit the like.
I don't believe that they would have left it there being such important evidence that they would have just left it on the counter with a Starbucks cup and all that other stuff. You would think that they'd go through it seeking fingerprints, DNA, all that good stuff. Was there any shoe prints that were left in the kitchen? They said they found one latent shoe print, one. But if you believe that, then I got some oceanfront property in Arizona. I think a lot of individuals believe what has been told to them as concrete. Why would the cops lie? Well, cops lie. Not that I'm anti-police here, but as I've been reading in my workbook, there was a chapter that stated, sometimes police embellish information or they keep information from the public so that they're kind of holding what they know and what they don't know. They're going to put a little bit out there. It's like a poker game. You don't want everybody to know what you have. And maybe they're going to give you some stuff that you didn't have based on something that you said. I hope that makes sense. So the fact that they said, we just have one latent shoe print. We didn't have any more shoe prints anywhere in the house.
Or, many people stick to that theory and that thought process where they say, well, they didn't give us a lot in the beginning, which they didn't. But what they did give you was just enough to keep whoever did it stable so they wouldn't run, so they wouldn't commit another murder. Because the method of operandi, or is the method of operation,
you're able to see exactly how these individuals work, what their calling cards are, so to speak. What are they doing, or what did they do in this crime that you've seen before, that you identify as a mistake, that you identify as evidence that can pinpoint you toward the right person? You know, there's been a lot of speculation about how quickly the police knew about Brian, how quickly they were onto him. I don't know if I believe that or not. I don't I don't know if I believe that or not. You know, the police are going to tell you what they're going to tell you. They're going to say, "Well, we knew all along from stepping into the house, this is the kind of guy that we were looking for." Well, the kind of guy you're looking for and the kind of guy who it is are two different people. Because most of the time, you're not that insightful. Man, this stand is just too flimsy for my laptop. I want to I want to take it off without causing a big disruption. Don't hold on a second. Let's stop the cam. All right, now I'm looking down. Is there anybody in here? It shows that there's 11 people watching, but damn, the chat is like idle as F. Are you guys just listening to what I got to say? Or are you just like kind of chilling, just not really in the mood? It's been a long week for you. You just don't feel like talking. Maybe you talk a lot at your job too. Maybe you just don't feel like talking, which I understand. Totally get it. Actually, I like this view a little better. Anyways, what I'm saying is when it comes to individuals and trying not to get caught, how would you act? How would you react if you were trying not to get caught? If you were trying to commit a murder and you weren't trying to get caught? Hey, Cash. If you were trying not to get caught in a murder, what are some things that you would be doing to throw the prosecutor, or not the prosecutor, but the investigators off? Because you already know that if they find your stuff, they find a knife, you're screwed. You already know if they somehow saw the vehicle, you're screwed. You already know if they saw you, if anybody saw you, you're screwed. Very good, Cash. I like that. You know, I know that if I was trying not to be caught, I would be playing more games with the cops. Kind of like BTK did in the beginning, writing those letters to the newspaper. I'd be playing games with people. And I don't know if there was any games played. Was there any game played that we didn't hear about? Because we didn't hear a lot of stuff about anything. Not BK, BTK. Bind, torture, kill. What the hell's his name? I can't think of his name right now. Here we go. Here we go. But think about the motivation, the intent, because we try to stick to wanting to know the motive. Dennis Rader, thank you. And we want to know why, not the park, but we want to know What is it that causes somebody to do this out of the blue, supposedly? Because as you all know, nobody can keep a secret. Nobody can keep a secret. If there was going to be a professional hit, it would have been known eventually. Somebody would have caught wind of it. You know, in my opinion. And that goes back to what I was saying earlier, as far as, people said, well, this had to be somebody who was known by the individuals that were murdered. Well, maybe this individual was known, but not known. And what I mean by that is saying that I could know you from a distance, but really not know you as a person. I've seen you with my friends. I've seen you, at the school. I've seen you downtown walking around, but I don't know you. So, that's where I go as far as how far did they go to investigate that avenue, because stalking just seems more invasive than to be known by somebody who's always around you. The parents even said that. I feel like this person who knew the victims. And that's a hell of a thing to say, because it is almost always true. People get killed by people who are the closest to them. Very seldom is there, I mean, it's changing now, but it used to not be where you were murdered by a stranger, unless it was an act of robbery, rape, stealing your vehicle, something like that, you know? So just asking that to get you to think a little bit. I haven't been on in a couple days because I haven't been feeling the greatest, and I still don't feel 100%. But I thought I'd get on here and I'd talk a little bit because that's what I do. I'm a talker. Anyways, do y'all have any questions of me? I mean, I never have asked that in any of my lives. If y'all have any questions, it's always interesting to hear other people's perspective, even if you don't believe in it. And that's part of being an adult. That's part of living. You can tell me, hey, this brand is better than this brand. And I can tell you, well, yeah, I tried it once, but I really didn't like it. Are you going to be like, you're going to get angry with me and try to convince me that that's better? That whatever you think is better than what I think about it? Imagine how that sounds. Have I killed anyone legally or not? Some things are better left not talked about. I think Brian thought about it way before, as in illegally or legally. Thinks you're super sus. I know he does. I mean, even when I'm reading some of the stuff I read, and by no means are they teaching me how to be a serial killer, because everything that I read about is in no way a step-by-step manual teaching me how to catch a serial killer. It is talking mostly about the psychology and the mindset of what to look for and how a person is going to react to certain situations that anticipates a murder to happen. It is not a step-by-step book. That's exactly why I love this channel. We don't agree on much, but we can still have an adult conversation. Well, thank you, Bree. Thank you. You saw his hair. You saw his hat. Yeah, I mean, why are we going to get all upset about something if we don't agree about it? I mean, it's almost like if I invited you to my man cave and I said, okay, we're going to talk about this tonight. And then all of a sudden people are like, you're wrong. This is this is that. Why are we going to be so emotional about it? I mean, I understand the emotional connection because it's a heinous crime. We don't like to think about how violent it was. We don't want to think about how violent it was. But at the same time, it was a violent crime. And let me ask you this, even if it's not Brian, don't you want the person to be held accountable who did this? I think that's a fair question. If it's not Brian, don't you want the person who did this to be held accountable? The chat is lagging, I think, because we're still in the man cave. Wouldn't you want the person to be held accountable who committed this crime or any crime? Because as it looks, many people are saying that Richard Allen didn't do it based on what they heard of the opening statements. But I can almost guarantee the prosecutor knows, the defense attorney knows, and the judge knows. But it's their vigilance to be objective and let the jury decide whether there's enough evidence to convict or acquit. And you know, all it takes is one. All it takes is one. And our justice system is broken. I'll never sit up here and say that it's perfect because it's not. There's countless cases where it has failed people. But at this point, it's the best that we have. And the same thing with police, and the same thing with ambulance drivers, and the same thing with pizza delivery guys, and the same thing with the people who bag your groceries and the people that put your fast food in the bag. There's a lot of inept people. But does that mean that everyone is inept? I'd like to think that, you know, there is one person who is pushing themselves to try to be better for them rather than just go with the flow and just be inept. But you know, when it comes to this case, it is so overwhelming to a lot of people because they want to know step by step. I don't know the fascination with that. I really don't. You know, I asked a question earlier in another chat about they were talking about how the wound didn't match up, right? And I asked, ever in the history of catching killers, has that been a deal? Like, has that been a big deal? Like, have they really ever looked into the wound matching up? Because in my mind, I would think that the wounds would never match. I would believe that the wounds would never be asymmetrical and they would be the same length, the same distance apart. None of that. And kind of like Tom Van said the other night when we were on here, and I was showing that K-Bar with Jeff and everybody in here, he said that, the tears come from trying to pull the knife out. That's where the tears come from. And he said, it's pretty clean cut. It's so quick that most of the time the individual's not even going to know they're being cut. Tom is as far as I can tell, an ex-Marine. Has a lot of training with that. So I believe what he says, If he's ever available, I'm going to have him up on panel so he can kind of describe what he's seen, what he's experienced, and exactly how it goes down, because it's better to know exactly how things go down than to sit there and think in your mind, well, this is how it happens, because we see movies, we hear other creators, we hear different things, and they convince us, that the wound would be different or would be the same if it was the same knife, and probably if it was a golf club or if it was a wrench or if it was a hammer or whatever was used, then obviously there'd be different wounds, right? But they could definitely be able to tell what caused the wound. There would be no question in that. There would be no, well, we don't know what caused this, because there's so many agencies that worked on this case. I guarantee you one of the 48 FBI agents would have been able to figure it out, or however many they ended up having at the end. I can almost guarantee you that through the experience of investigating this case, there was probably over decades of experience investigating murder. This wasn't the first quadruple murder they probably ever seen. And they probably used instruments, new state-of-the-art technology to get evidence that they probably normally don't use a lot of times. One thing that I've never heard discussed is the forensic part of it. Of all the creators that have ever talked about this, as far as discussing the forensic that they could have found, they get to even the deepest soil samples. They can get all kinds of different samples on the soil, the rock, the pebbles, all this stuff that can give them insight on cross-referencing any kind of soil or any kind of fibers or any kind of things that they might find. I think people forget that evidence doesn't always have to be cut and dry. It doesn't always have to be the big old dramatical thing. Look at the Gilgo Beach killer. Okay. What were those burlap sacks? They found a hair in one of them or something, or they found burlap sacks strands in his trunk or something. Well, I might be getting that all wrong. It's been a while since I thought of that case, but think about that. If you find a fiber that is microscopic, now let's say it has some blood on it, and that blood's been able to be removed enough to be having either DNA or anything associated with it to implicate anybody, you would have never thought that little bitty piece of fiber that you probably didn't even realize fell off of your clothing had that on it, and that's what got you implicated? How pissed off would you be? Tell me, chat, how pissed off would you be? If you were out to set up, to do a crime and you thought that you were, you know, you thought you created the perfect crime, and then all of a sudden they come back with, oh, by the way, we got this piece of fiber here, and it had your blood and the victim's blood on it. We cross-referenced it, and it came back to you and one of the victims. I'd be so mad because they couldn't find anything else because it was all circumstantial. And then all of a sudden, this fiber is what tied me to the crime. That would put me in the house. That would put me right there with the victim. And there's no way you could explain that one out. You know what I'm saying? But, I believe in my heart that people are possibly still good people. And there's some awful people in the world as well. And there's some vindictive, and there's some people that you can't have constructive conversation with without they taking it personal and trying to attack you back. But knowledge is knowledge. You either have it or you don't. Just because somebody brings you that knowledge and you don't cross-reference it and you show it on these lives and you put it out as facts, and then somebody calls you out on that, you can't get mad. You didn't do your diligence to prove this scenario worthy of being right or wrong. So you can't be blaming other creators because they see right through you. That's why I made a lot of my subscribers mad when I first started my channel. I said, I am not going to be like other channels. I don't want y'all to email me what you think, what you found, what you believe. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to go with your thoughts. This is my channel. I'm going to do the research. I'm going to talk about it. Because if anything's done or said that is incorrect, I'm going to be accountable for it. I've never been one of those people that say, you do the work, I'll take the credit. You get what I'm saying, guys? Brian was wearing all black. Hard to see blood on black clothes. Yeah. You know what I mean, Aquarius. I mean, because I remember when I first started my channel, there was a lot of other channels that had people emailing them their theories, their thoughts. They were emailing them pictures. They were emailing them, all this stuff. And I didn't want to be that channel. I didn't want to be that channel to rely on people's emails in order to get information, And I don't dig as deep as I should, I really don't. I'll admit that right now. I don't have the time to be digging that deep. You know what I mean? If I had the time, I would be bringing up a lot more stuff, but I don't have the time. I'm a full-time student. I work full-time. I, have a life. I'm talking with somebody who I'm enjoying their company a lot. And honestly, she's more pleasurable to talk to than a lot of chat that I've been in. So, it's going from there. So, yep, I'm lazy. I'm lazy, Cash. You're right. You're right. Viviana, thank you for being in here. When are you going to start going live? I saw that you have over 500 subscribers. I think you can go live now. I have way too much time on my hands. LOL. Well, you can take some of my life, I guess. And I've been sick, that that always sucks too. OMG, you're leaving us for another. No, we've talked about it. They know that I go live and they're cool with it. They're cool with it. I've been able to go live since 300. Oh, okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was 500. I see it's been so long since I was, first started my channel. I've forgotten. Well, that's understandable. Your shorts are very in depth. Very in depth. And I always hold true to, if you have to defend yourself or you have to show the world how smart you are, that's actually just showing them that you really don't believe in yourself that much. But the fact that you're able to do it in a way that not only brings facts, but also is respectful, in my opinion, that shows a lot about you. Do you ever have moments when you think to yourself maybe Brian is innocent or some things are corrupted? Rondi, he dumping us. Oh my gosh, you have abandonment issues, Cash? Let's see what Viviana has to say about that question. Followed the case since the first alert tech came out, and I've read every document, spoke to people I know in both communities. Cash say it isn't so. That's interesting too, that you're so close that you're able to really get, even before the gag order, you were able to get some information about the stories of the crime that were actually right on rather than having to be given somebody else's interpretation. Let me ask you a question while I have you here in the chat, Viviana. What is your impression of mainstream media? You know how mainstream media gets such an awful rap on some of these channels? Do you agree with mainstream media most of the time or do you not watch it? That's for any of y'all. Do y'all agree with mainstream media? Do y'all not watch it? What do y'all think about it? I mean, I understand that they're doing a job just like everybody else, and they're probably paid, like wrestling. You know, the more dramatic it is, the more people are gonna love it. So the same thing with the news, I believe. Viviana is on the fence. No, she said she hates it. I mean, as far as me, I use so much of their stuff in reporting a lot of the things. Like I said, I don't get to dig as deep as I'd like, but if it wasn't for the stories that I get to use off mainstream media or stuff that I read, I'd really be clueless a lot of times because I don't like to use other people's stuff unless I believe that they have a very clear process of what they're trying to present. Okay. Yeah, I believe that there is a lot of bias. I mean, bias is awful when you're dealing with people's lives. But it's hard to stay neutral in most cases. And we've seen that all over the YouTube streets. It's hard to stay neutral because sometimes even if you don't want to be thrown into that label department, people instantly want to label you. Which I don't understand is what the importance is for you to be able to talk to somebody unless you label them. Like, I'll be straight up. I've been labeled a guilter. Surprise, surprise, right? You know, I I believe that I'm very fair minded when it comes to this whole case because I haven't even shared my theory with you guys. I've shared just about everybody else's theories on it. I've talked about it. Um, but I've never shared my theory with you guys, and as simple as it sounds in my head, it might not be that simple, you know? Yeah, we have people that have a very quirky sense of humor in this chat. Okay, well, that's nice to know. Here's one right here. I label 12 a murderer. I would say something, but it's nasty. I mean, it's. I was just about to say something bad. It's nasty though. You haven't shared my theory. Let's hear yours. No, I'm not going to. If you've seen any of the Friday movies, you see what this individual is dead now, but it was Craig's dad, and he used to always be like, "I don't, um, I don't, I'm not pee whooped. Hi, the pee," and that's as far as I'm gonna go with that. So, if y'all have never seen that movie, um, you know, you want me to say it? I've already lost like 20 subscribers because I did the pole dancing video the last Friday night. I mean, people got wind of that and they started dropping like flies, and I was like, man, it's part of life. That is a criminal part of life. There is a crime. There's criminal activity associated with that. Yeah, so it's like crazy. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Viviana, I've enjoyed having you on panel. Thank you. I don't know how often you're here, but if you ever want to jump up here and, talk about anything that you believe that, is need to be stated or said or anything that you really want to talk about, I'd enjoy the company up here because, I'm always good with people on the panel. So anytime you want to jump up here or, talk about anything, feel free. KC3 one day. I think we've talked about your theory before, Nina. Did you did you didn't you share it on Swamp Rose the other night? I'll share it, but I won't put up the email. I'll just share it. I'll read it. So I don't want you to think I'm an ass by not reading it. My theory is really simple and very let's see if I can find it. There it is, right there. Okay, this is Nina, warning label Nina's theory. Okay. And here we go. I guess I can put it up here. It won't show my name. I'm so paranoid about that sometimes. I don't want to show Nina's. Yeah, I'll put it up here. That way y'all can read along. He says, I'm not pussy whooped. I whooped the pussy. That's what he says. I don't know if y'all can see that. Anyways, it says, okay, to the point. Ashley Flugel was a girl he was infatuated with during the heroin days. They were close. They got high together. Unfortunately for him, she was a lesbian. So major manhood rejection there. 2018, Ashley overdosed on Lindsay Lane. Stay with me. Xana, I think, was the target. Xana received a DoorDash order. Xana worked at Mad Creek. Xana had a falling out with a male 2 weeks prior to death. Xana's dad came the week before and fixed her lock on the door. Xana's sister attended WSU. Xana lived practically on Linda Lane. Xana looked just like Ashley Flugel. Xana, Linda Lane. Ashley, Lindsay Lane. If Koberger was already suffering ego depletion from everything falling to pieces in his life, constant student complaint, losing his TA position, possibly triggering his VSS to reoccur, walking at WSU one day, passes Xana and her sister on the sidewalk, looks up and blasts from the past. It looks like Ashley, the lesbian that hurt me and died. Maybe triggers some anger, some hurt, some trauma from glancing at Xana. Find out she works in Mad Creek. Then, oh my God, 1122 house is connected to Linda Lane. Ashley overdosed on Lindsay Lane. In a state of doom, all that would fit together somehow. So one day he tried to talk to Xana. She blows him off. In a funny Xana kind of way. But in ego depletion, the blow off is devastating. Return to threatened egotism. Remember the falling out with the male 2 weeks before the murder. Threatened egotism, from research I did, is a leading cause of violence, revenge, rape, retaliation, murders from rejection. Okay. There is Nina's theory. So what do y'all think about that? What do y'all think about that theory? Anybody agree with that theory? Thinking. Okay. Y'all hear the dog going off? I think dogs are smarter than we get them credit for. It took me a 3-part video series to do that. All right. Ain't nobody hating. Like I said, we all can get along in here, you know? Ego depletion is something that is very, very very hard to overcome. I would believe that, like I started off the whole live, as far as the addiction theory part, the depletion would have to be intertwined with his addiction. The ego depletion, you know? Well, I'm not trying to I've already held these people for an hour and 36 minutes. I don't want to do a 3-hour live tonight. I got to make a phone call here in a little while. So, like I said earlier, you know, I got time constraints. BK and BK alone. You know, wouldn't it be interesting if the dog bit him? Whoever did this? Like if the dog got out, you know, like he opened that door, whoever did it, opened that door, the dog ran out, bit the guy or had any part of their attire on them, They swabbed the dog, and he had DNA in his mouth. Wouldn't that be wild? Now I'm just putting stuff out there, and people are going to run with that, right? Murphy bit him, and his DNA was in Murphy's mouth. Solved the crime. Solved the crime. Murphy's mouth had the missing link. I don't know. I mean, there's just so much stuff that here we are all this time later, we're still talking about it. And that's what cracks me up is when people talk about they hate that people won't let this go. Well, nobody's let this go. Nobody. So to complain about other people not letting it go is the same as complaining about yourself not letting it go, because nobody has let this go, including myself. I've stated live, hey, I'm not doing this case no more for a while. Gonna take some time off. Guess what? I'm right back on it. You know? I'm just here for the hot dogs. Well, I appreciate your support. I heard about your good news, Aquarius, and I support you in everything that you do. I hope that if you ever need a hand over there, just let me know. All right? Just let me know. I support you 100%. Rondi, your wrench is bigger than mine. Nobody would give warning label a real wrench. Mine is plastic. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well, that's cool. I mean, it needs to be whatever it is, and I hope that you can email me some of it, because I'm interested. I want to see what it's all about. True crime's not all that it's cracked up to be anyways. Um this isn't really, I mean, if you take a look at this whole investigative side, there's some people that actually are true crime, and then there's people that are just, I don't know what you would call them. But there's people that really, it appears like they are so divided on their feelings about certain things. How could you ever be for the family if you're divided on which family member you want to associate with? Like, I would believe that if you really cared about the victims, you wouldn't care so much about the family. Like, and why wouldn't you think the family would still be grieving after all this time? I hope that each one of those family members gets compensated. Each one. Because if you've ever lost somebody, no amount of money, no matter how much money means to you as a person on these panels, no amount of money will ever bring their loved one back. So to you to say that 50,000, 500,000, $1 million is grifting, think about that in your own backyard. Somebody said, hey, I'm going to do a GoFundMe and I'm going to do $1 million because you lost somebody that you care about, somebody that you love. Are you going to be like, oh, hell yeah, give me that million. Give me that bag, bro. I'm with it. No amount of money will ever bring these children back or these adults back. And I don't think that any amount of money that they receive is ever enough for the pain that their hearts go through on a daily basis. It's just terrible to think that you could lose somebody you love today, and you could be grieving, and you could be needing help for their funeral, or you could be needing help to prosecute or whatever, to get a good lawyer. And there's people in this world that instead of worrying about their own lives and supporting you, are worried about you making some money for your family during this tough time. It's very, I mean, I don't have anything to say to those creators. I mean, let them be them. I'm nobody's judge. They'll have to answer to that one day, but not by me. I'm nobody's judge. I just think that it's like, how could you have any say over somebody else's financial decisions? And it's not like these family members created their own GoFundMe's. Somebody else created it for them. You get what I'm saying? But the fact that you can pick one out of 4 to be associated with, it just, and I've heard it from countless people. I've seen it on Facebook. I've seen it all over, and it's like, man, it is just crazy. Just crazy. Let these people grieve. Let these people get through this trial. Even down to them asking what good restaurants in Boise. Maybe they've never been to Boise. Have you ever been somewhere that you didn't want to go? I can tell you, bro, if you ever have to go to Portland, you better ask around before you land at the airport for sure. I've been watching some stuff about that place because I was watching the 6 murders and Jesse Calhoun stuff. You better be mindful of where to go, where to get your hotel and stuff like that, because you go to the wrong areas, you could be not having anything left, So it's always mindful to know your surroundings. I don't know. I just think different than other people, I guess, and that's okay. They don't have to be me and I don't have to be them, but we can still get along, right? What are y'all talking about? I don't know what y'all are talking about. Hey, Stevie B, long time no see, brother. Hey, AR, are you still here? Glad to see you. I don't know what you're yes sirring about, but if that was to me, it's always wise to know where you're going to be. Like, I believe you're in Las Vegas, I believe, right? And I've always wanted to go to Vegas, and I've always wanted to go down Fremont Street and zip line and all that stuff. I wanted to do the tourist stuff, right? But I'm not just going to hop on a plane and then go land at the airport and then be like, I'm going to make this up as I go along, because I've seen documentaries about these are the areas of Las Vegas you don't go. You go off the strip, there is some rough stuff over there. So, it's like, why would you chance it? Why would you just say, hey, I'm gonna fly into this town and I'm gonna just go and be the tourist? That's how people never get heard from again. But I would like to go to Vegas one day. That's always been a goal of mine. I want to go zip line down Fremont Street. Have any of y'all ever done it? Yes, it was. To you, always be true to you. Come on out. I'll hang out with you here in Vegas. I'll show you fun. Fremont is a ton of fun. Yeah. That's awesome, man. Yeah, I've always wanted to go, bro. I've always wanted to go, but I'm one of those people that, it doesn't matter where I go, because I've worked in some of the roughest areas known to man. I've lived in the roughest areas. I don't view individuals like other people view them. I view people as people. I don't view them as oh, you're a homeless person, you're a drug addict, you're this, you're that. I don't view people like that. So but I would just suggest that if you ever go to a new place that you learn about your surroundings. It's always a good thing. But I hear though, off that strip, it is wild. Like I'd want to go to Vegas to see where Tupac got shot, where the old club 662 was. I would want to do some sightseeing, but they say don't be in those areas off of what was it? I can't even think of the streets, but right over there where Tupac got shot, those areas after dark are pretty rough, I've heard. I have timeshare in Vegas. I did 3 weeks on vacation with a bit longer than I should have stayed. Okay. Hey, Jack. Thank you for being here, brother. I've been around Vegas since I was very young. Know the area very well. Okay. Hey, that would be awesome. The helicopter to the Grand Canyon. But I live in a part of Texas that is dry and dusty and all that. Is Vegas like that also? Is it dusty and dry and hot? And because if it is, that's one of the reasons that I haven't went yet. Because I don't want to go somewhere that's just like where I live. I want to go where it's, better than where I live. Charleston and Vegas Boulevard is not good ones. Behind the Strat is gang control. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Like I lived in Dallas Fort Worth forever, and I worked in Oak Cliff. I worked in Fort Worth off the deadliest drug areas, and it's wild, it's like what you see in the movies, but it's totally different than anything you'll ever see in a movie. I've actually seen I was going up on this hill, I was lost. And at the bottom of the hill there was this bar. And there was cars on both sides of the street. All of a sudden, out runs this guy. And the whole bar is running after him. And they circle him in the street. And all you hear is pop, 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 pop. And then all of a sudden, everybody scatters. And they're kicking him as they're running by him, right? And I was thinking to myself, you just witnessed a shooting. I was 17 years old when I saw that. I grew up in a town of 900 people. I had never experienced that in my life, you know, and to see that at 17 and some of the stuff that I experienced that summer, grow up really fast in those big cities. Right next to the Greyhound. Oh, that Greyhound station is dirty, dirty, dirty. Yeah, that Greyhound station is bad, AR. It is bad. It's a dry heat, and all down the strip there are mist spreads. You can actually go from one end of the strip to the other without ever going outside. Okay, that's cool. But yeah, at 17, I was like, we lived over there off Northwest Highway in Dallas, and if you don't know where that is, back in the day, there was all these strip clubs up and down that area. So it was a red light district. My family didn't have a lot of money then, but and I befriended this guy, and my dad worked nights, and him and I would walk the street all night long. My mom would be at work, my dad would be at work. I was supposed to be watching my little brother, and I left him in the apartment locked up. Left him for hours. We walked all around those strip clubs. We walked up and down, saw homeless people. We saw bum fights. We saw all kinds of stuff. You know, it was something that I couldn't get enough of. It was like I didn't feel better then. I just felt like these are my people for some reason. I don't know. Even at 17, I was a little thrilled, you know? You guys are talking about Vegas. That's awesome. AR says, yeah, that Greyhound station is wild. We watched Lionel Richie. He was good. That's awesome. What? You did karaoke? That Greyhound station is full hustle town. Yes. Yes. I don't know what it's like now, but I pulled into that bad boy one too many times. You just don't leave. You don't leave that Greyhound station for nothing, bro. Wow. I think it was the strip clubs. No, I wasn't old enough to be in the strip clubs. They wouldn't let you in. Stayed at the Paris last time though, and they didn't tell me I would be in the new tower. Old Bally's. What a pain in the ass. Yeah, I think they're knocking down a lot of the old ones. I think I heard they knocked down the last mob owned one a while back because they knocked a lot of those down. Is there still a Circus over there? I remember when that thing was a thing, you know, when Circus and the Luxor and what that one that has all those waterfalls in the front. They're synchronized. God, I can't think of that one. But I heard that they were knocking down a lot of the old ones. Las Vegas is all about money for sure. The skywalk wasn't done, so I had to drag my luggage. The Bellagio. There you go. There you go. The Bellagio. Yeah, I'd like to stay there. Like I said, hopefully one day I'll make it out there. I mean, it'd be nice to, and I know AR's out there, so as long as his doggies don't eat dark meat, I'm good. You know, Mirage is becoming hard rock. Okay. Dancing water is amazing. Yes, it is. We used to go to the circuit to hang out there in middle school. That's awesome. That is awesome. Hey, AR, your dog don't like brown meat, do they? They don't like dark meat. My missus warned me about sex workers in Vegas, so I was on alert. Ironically, I was approached at Disneyland. That's hilarious. I met Nick Cave's manager's wife, though. Disneyland? Ain't that something? Some worker comes up to you dressed as Minnie Mouse. Hey, want a good time? Oh, that thing is addictive to watch. I bet it would be. That looks so cool. Disneyland Resort Hotel. Yeah, Minnie Mouse comes up to you. Hey, looking for a good time? Has that deep voice too. Hey, looking for a good time? $40. Nowhere bar and a barman warned me.
Oh, damn. Could watch all day. I love the song Time to Say Goodbye by Andre Bocelli, and the Waters were set to that song. That's awesome. Oh, damn. Oh, I don't need you guys to crack myself up. I swear, I just had a twisted, demented mind that just twisted, demented mind. It looks like it's gonna rain over here. Hope you guys are having some good weather. I don't know any of y'all are down in the. I know Nina lives in Alabama, but I don't think the hurricane is gonna hit inland toward, Alabama in that area. We like that gauge. Aw, shucks. So I just bought a computer like desk, not desk, but like the little holder thing, and my gaming laptop too big for it, too heavy for it, and it was all about to fall down a while ago. Southeast Washington. I bet it rains there every day. It's getting cooler in Ohio, but it's November in the 40s. Rain as usual. Yeah, rain's a good thing. I mean, I washed my truck the other day, so go figure. But it's always a good time, guys, whenever we can get in here and just laugh and cut up and not really, even though I was talking about the IDAHO4 case, I'd like to think that we're at the level of the case where it's not so stressful anymore. It shouldn't be. Hey, bonfires are cool. Yeah, bonfires are cool. Need a fire pit. Nope, the west side of the state get the rain. We don't get a lot on this side. All right. Was 80 degrees in New York today, and I hate it. Love the cold. Well, it's always hot here. It's crazy. It's like a desert. First thing in the morning, it's cold as hell, and then it warms up. It could be 90 degrees, and then toward the evening, it starts to cool down, and then the temperature drops. Well, I hope you guys have an awesome weekend. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for your kindness. Thank you for your intellect. And thank you first and foremost for being adults in the chat. We can agree to disagree, and we can also have a good time in the process. Doesn't have to always be us ending up as enemies. Y'all have a wonderful night. And I have one thing to ask you. Can you dig it? Can you dig it? If you can't, you need to get yourself a bigger shovel. Maestro, cue that music.